Going Deep podcast, we've got Hall of Famer, legend, 10-time Pro Bowler, 6-time first-team All-Pro, Barry Sanders. Madden cover guy as well. Madden cover guy. Barry, welcome to the program. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. It's great to be here. What are you guys up to?
I mean, we're getting ready for the big game. I'm a Bucs fan, so we are still playing this week. Two former NFC Central teams still alive, but we're happy to bring you on today. You're here on behalf of Rocket Mortgage, right? The Super Bowl Square sweepstakes. You want to tell us about that real quick?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Rocket Mortgage Super Bowl Squares basically, it's giving fans a chance to win a lot of cash. Every score change, someone can possibly win $50,000. There's a grand prize where two fans will win $500,000. When I say every score change, field goals, extra points, touchdowns, 2-point conversions, whatever. So if you want to find out more about it, go to rocketmortgagesquares.com. It's free to play, which is even better, and just building on last year's success of where Rocket Mortgage gave away over $1.7 million to fans during Super Bowl. So it just makes the big game even all that much more exciting for fans.
I mean, that is life-changing money. Again, that's free to enter, rocketmortgagesquares.com. It is open now through February 4th. We'll be airing this today, so plenty of time to get that out. But Barry, let's start here. I mean, you played 10 years in the NFL. You ran for at least 1,100 yards in each season. Something that I don't think gets a lot of notoriety, though, is your draft class. So your draft class, the top 5 picks, 4 Hall of Famers, like one-name guys. We got Troy Aikman first. Unfortunately, the Packers went with Tony Mandarich second. But they got Barry Sanders, Derek Thomas, and then Deion Sanders. I mean, coming out, you obviously had a killer final season. You won the Heisman Trophy at Oklahoma State. Did you know that you guys were all about to change the game?
Well, I knew that I had a lot to live up to. With that draft class, I had a lot to live up to. And obviously, no one knew at that time how it would turn out. And remember, for me, all those guys were a little bit older than me because I was a true junior. So I felt like kind of a pup. Pup among pups, in that class. And as you stated, Troy had signed with the Cowboys a few months before the draft. That was a done deal.
Wow.
In college, Tony Mandarich, he was a beast, man. He was an absolute beast. Just the largest human being I had ever seen. So I didn't. I thought it was a good pick for the Packers to pick him at number 2. And for me, again, it was one of those things for me where I was just glad that I was anywhere in that group because, as I said before, being a true junior, I was, a few months before that, I was seriously considering going back to school.
Really?
So I was seriously considering going back to school, and then my dad said, "Boy, you must be out of your mind." Fortunately, some long conversations with family and especially dad, just trying to give me a sense of reality and perspective that, I'd done enough in school and I can always go back, that kind of thing. But anyways, I knew that that was great company to be in. I didn't know, where that role would take us. Obviously, Derek Thomas, absolute phenom at outside linebacker, and Deion Sanders, that name speaks for itself. The kind of shutdown corner he was, and just playmaker and multiple Super Bowl winner and all that stuff. So yeah, no, it's looking back, it's really kind of mind-boggling to see those first few picks of that draft.
Why'd you want to go back to school, Barry? Just to be a kid for another year or finish your degree, or what was the main reason that you wanted to at first?
Well, I was pretty serious about school, and I never knew that my football journey would take the turn that it did. And so, that for me, that's why I was in college, to try to get a degree. And I love being a student athlete. I love the setting of playing college football and just, and that whole thing of being in Stillwater and so yeah, I mean, for me, it was a priority to at least try to finish school and so yeah. But the bottom line is, yeah, I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I thought I was there. Is just the fact that football just sort of exploded for me the way that it did, and so priorities changed. But yeah, I never, so I would say entering into college, I never would have imagined that I would have turned out to be the type of player that I was, and so fortunately for me, those priorities had to change after a couple years.
Barry, you had a hell of a career in Detroit, and you're also known for kind of hanging it up early. Phillip Rivers announced today that he's hanging it up, and when he was asked, he said it was just time. Did you have that same feeling? When did you know it was it for you, for the great Barry Sanders?
I would say probably year 8, 9. I felt like, I was kind of winding down, that I had played long enough. And my feeling about the game changed. I think, because I was able to have the kind of career that I did, that it was something that I felt pretty secure in, and I was comfortable enough to be able to make that choice. And then year 10, my final year, it really kind of hit me hard. Like, okay, yeah, this is pretty much it. It's not like we're, contending Super Bowl champions or got a realistic chance. I felt like of really doing something special in that way. Mm-hmm. And so, obviously, had that been the case, that may have changed things. I don't know. But yeah, so just later in my career, especially year 10, I just understood that, yeah, you know what, I've done enough. It's been a great ride. It's been a great run, so to speak. And it was just something that I understood, because, I was, I've been such a football fanatic all my life, and being able to live out that dream, which was really, I would say, beyond my wildest dream. Honestly, it's beyond my wildest dream. The fact that I was able to be the type of player that I was and have those experiences. So yeah, I mean, so when I got to that point with that drive, that one thing that fire that's lit in you that
right.
says, man, I got to be out there. When that started to fade and was gone, then I knew it was time.
But let's be clear about that. So you said either year 8 or 9. Year 9 is your MVP season. You rushed for 2,053 yards and 11 touchdowns. Are you saying that maybe during or even before that season, you knew it was pretty much over?
Well, I'm not going to say I knew it was over. I just knew that in my mind, okay, I've played a lot. There's no guarantees in this game. You don't know what's going to happen when you step on the field. I was still working as hard, and when on game day I was still ready and that kind of thing. But it was just, you realize that you're not a young pup anymore. And so it's like you hear Breeze and Brady and those guys every offseason. You kind of evaluate where you are, and it's the same thing. I just for me, I just knew I was there after year 10.
Barry, one of the things that always first comes to mind when I think about you as a player is, one, obviously the human joystick, all the juke moves, you revolutionized the game in that way, but then also your celebrations once you got in the end zone, or the lack thereof, where you handed the ball to the official, even when you're the MVP and the best running back in the league and all of that. Is it weird for you now to see the players in the league, how they celebrate in groups, and they have these elaborate touchdown celebrations, and they're all over TikTok? I mean, I'm a Steelers fan. My guys can't get out of their own fucking way, and is it odd for you to sit here and say, man, what are these guys doing?
It's funny. My sons had a blast, kind of teasing Juju for his TikTok dance. I have my youngest boys are 13 and 16, and they were really enjoying just the heat that Juju was taking for.
Yeah, so is everybody else.
Right, but to answer your question, it's a fun game. and everyone kind of approaches that different. For me, I think one thing that had an influence on me is probably at a young age. My dad just saying, when you score, act a certain way, and so that was just my approach, and something that I kind of took from him. I guess for me, I always thought, after you score, there's really nothing else to do, and I'm not a very good dancer, so but at the same time, I have to admit, man, I do enjoy some of the celebrations, because I grew up in that era of like Billy White Shoes Johnson, when a lot of people didn't really celebrate. It was only like every so often you'd have a guy that would do something, or the Smurfs and guys like that, so I enjoyed it when it was more a novelty. But it's interesting now to see all the choreographed dances and things like that. But my perspective was, there was nothing higher for a running back, an offensive player. Hey, after you score, that's the height. It can't get any better. So let me just try to do it again, and put my energies there. And so that was kind of my perspective. And there's really, I never really even thought about it. I know, and again, I enjoy watching like Dion. We talked about Dion earlier. His creativity, and obviously he was back then he was doing everything, because not only did he play football, he played baseball. He had a rap album, So it was interesting to see the creative things that he would come up with. He was kind of an MC Hammer knockoff, in a lot of ways. But so anyway, I knew to just stay in my lane, hand the ball to the ref, go on back to the bench and think about trying to do it again.
I want to talk about the current state of the running back, man. There's so many really, really good running backs in the league right now. You talk about Saquon, about Dalvin Cook. You talk about Aaron Jones, who's now playing for an NFC Championship. You talk about Derrick Henry and the type of year he just had. All those guys I just mentioned, who's must-watch TV for you? When they're playing, you're like, man, I got to watch this kid go. I like his game.
Well, still being here in Detroit, I see a lot of Dalvin Cook. The kid, he's just been a playmaker since he's been in the league, and come on every year. And once again this season, he's at the top of the list of of rushers, and obviously Derrick Henry, what he's done the last couple of years, he's been really outside of Patrick Mahomes, I would say probably the most dominant player. Maybe you could argue with Aaron Rodgers, but Derrick Henry's been the most dominant player. To go in last year and defeat the defending Super Bowl champs, and then back that up this year with 2,000 yards. I wish they had given him the ball, 30, 40 times, last weekend, or in the loss, a couple weekends ago. But that's water under the bridge, obviously. But yeah, the Jacobs kid out in Oakland, and you look at Nick Chubb and Alvin Kamara. I think you wonder how much Zeke Elliott may have been thrown off by all the stuff going on in Dallas. He was a little under, I think, 1,000 this year, but I would assume he would be back up there next year. He's still, I enjoy watching him run. So yeah, there's a lot of really, I'm sure I'm leaving some guys off. The young kid Taylor for Indianapolis this year. Jonathan Taylor had a solid year. This year, and you mentioned Aaron Jones, and there's Ronald Jones, for Tampa, good solid player. There's still some really good running backs left in the playoffs at this point. Honestly, that I'm enjoying. It'll be interesting to see how the teams use them this weekend. But yeah, there seems like there's just really been a good flood of good running backs and the last couple of years, and even with Derrick Henry rushing for 2,000 yards this year, I wouldn't be surprised to see him do it again. I mean, I think he could very possibly be the first guy to do it twice, to run for 2,000 yards twice in a career, and I think he very well has what it takes.
In today's game, a lot is made. I mean, the game's changed so much. When you played, you were listed at 5'8", 203 pounds. But a lot is made now about the number of carries. The days of the workhorse back seemingly are behind us, outside of probably Derrick Henry. But you averaged over 300 carries per year in your career, and you played 10 years. Can you talk about what that amount of carries does to a body and how you actually recovered in the offseason?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, in my own case, fortunately, I took great pride in just trying to take care of my body, and so fortunately, one of the things I think that I learned over those 10 years was just, about, how really to kind of, getting your sleep, maybe watching some of the things that you eat, especially during the season, going into a game, and just all those little things like that. How to training wise, how to approach training in season and in the off season. And so I think those things helped me tremendously, and I wasn't one that hit the streets too hard, and so for me, there was no greater priority, and there was nothing really above and beyond being a running back in the NFL. I mean, I felt like not just how we were talking earlier about being, being in that top of that draft class, but I had watched this game all my life, and I had watched guys like Tony Dorsett, and I had watched guys like O.J. Simpson and Walter Payton and Marcus Allen, and the list goes on and on. And just there was no greater pride than being a running back in the NFL, and I took that serious. And so when I stepped on the field, I was about the business of trying to be the greatest running back I could, because I held it as just the highest honor one could have, from being just a football fanatic especially of running backs all my life, and so to answer your question though, 300 carries per year for me, I felt like, I felt like it really helped me, just my approach and again, not being out too much, taking care of my body, working out hard during the season and off season. I think it really helped preserve my career and obviously my running style. I knew that I couldn't run many people over, so I had to run around guys, and maybe create the illusion that I might run you over and then run around you. So I think certain things like that certainly benefited me.
Barry, another Detroit Lion all-timer, Calvin Johnson, eligible for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, similar to you, hung him up. And what people, generally would say, he had more time left. He hung him up fairly early. When he was going through that process of retirement, did he contact you for any advice? Did you have any discussion with him about that? And then two, do you believe that he is a first ballot Hall of Famer, even though he hung him up a little bit earlier?
Oh, well, when he was going through his retirement, and those things, I never talked to him. So please, don't give me any credit for him retiring, or give me any of the blame, I guess, for him retiring.
I just didn't know if there's any advice exchange.
Don't give me any of the blame, but so I was as shocked as anyone, because obviously he was our best player, and had done so much for the franchise, and so it's just amazing how fast I feel like his career just flew by, and hey, look, he was I feel like the most dominant player on our team, and also one of the most dominant in the league when he played. I think he's the only receiver to go over 2,000 yards, if I'm not mistaken. So I would assume that he's a shoe-in Hall of Famer. I don't know, I don't know what those sports writers and the selection committee, criteria they'll use, but yeah, I mean, I would think that he would go in sooner, if not later, but I'm assuming he would go in this year, and he certainly has a Hall of Fame career. I mean, and in my mind, and I think in all Detroit's fans' minds, he's certainly first ballot.
Barry, I want to ask you, man, today's NFL player is involved in a lot, right? You talk about the platform, and that's a word that gets thrown around a lot. As of lately, it seems like more and more players are using their platform to stand up for social injustice and stand up for different causes around the country, especially criminal reform. Was there a need, or was there an attitude, especially when you were playing, that these things were kind of needed to be spoken about, but maybe pushed against because, hey, you just respect the brand, respect the league, and do your job? Those things kind of take care of itself. How do you feel about the players using their platform to speak up for some of the things that are plaguing our society?
No, yeah, I think it's great, man. I think it's great what they're doing. I think players have always felt like there was a need for something to be done. When I played, there was a thing called the Million Man March, where I think a lot of players attended that. From what I can remember, I know our coaches encouraged players to go and participate, because they thought it was something productive, and it was something that we felt like it was important in our community. And, and every player comes from his own community. He comes from his own household. He comes from his own set of experiences that sort of shapes him in a certain way. And so that's going to shape the way he sees the world. And so, yeah, I think it's great to be able to use your voice, to be able to bring about positive change, and so that's one of the beautiful things and great things about being able to be a professional player, no matter what league you're playing in, and so, yeah, I think it's very valuable, and to be able to balance those two. And I think it just makes them more, probably more of, I guess you could say, more well-rounded,
Sure.
and that they're not just that guy on the court or on the field, that they care about other things that impact others, and so I think it makes them more human in a lot of ways. So I think that's a beautiful thing.
Barry, the Lions have been making a lot of moves lately, basically pressing the reset button. So they hired keeping things kind of homegrown too. So Chris Spielman is the special assistant to the owner and CEO. And then they hired Brad Holmes as the GM, and then former Lions tight end Dan Campbell as the head coach. What are your insights kind of on thoughts on those guys? And then do you think they need to press the full reset button and kind of move on from Matt Stafford, who I don't think anyone thinks is the problem?
Oh yeah, I mean, as we're as today is inauguration day for President Biden, it's like the Lions are bringing in a new regime, and,
Yeah.
it's like our inauguration day for the Lions. We're bringing in a new coach and GM and all that. No, I mean, I think certainly something had to be done when you talk about, when you talk about a season. If you go a season where you lose double-digit games, that's a problem. But we've had multiple seasons where we've lost double-digit games, and so we knew that probably something was going to be done. Obviously, I played a lot of years with Chris Spielman, and the guy, he's been in and around the game, and he knows the game, and so he was pretty much given responsibility, of finding GM and coach, and I like the angle. And I talked to Chris, and I knew that he had plans to talk to Coach Campbell, and obviously the conversation must have went pretty well, so. But yeah, I mean, I think, the angle of the player, the player who played for many years and now has coached for many years, that we've seen that that's a pretty good blueprint for some teams, and so we'll see how it goes. The question about moving on from Matt Stafford, I mean, I can't necessarily see a scenario where that happens. but I'm not necessarily in that room making that decision. I think he's still playing at a high level. Now, if you're telling me that, I don't know, Joe Montana is going to come back, or or Brett, or John Elway, or no, or I guess maybe, you know what I'm saying. If you're saying there's something on the table that is of that caliber, but I think it's really just about building around what you have. He's still, and anymore you see these quarterbacks, they're playing much longer than they used to. Matt, like I said, he's still playing at a very high level, and you would think that he has many more really good years ahead of him. We've seen what he can do when he has the talent around him, so I'm excited about whatever happens in the future for us going forward. As long as it's everything moving in the right direction, and I think hiring Coach Campbell is a good step in that direction.
That's better bring back Kenny Galladay.
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, hopefully that deal has to get done. He was so valuable to us this year before he was out. I mean, we were 500 when he got hurt. Yeah. And then we proceeded, I think we were around 3-3, and then we proceeded to go 5-11. I'm not saying it was all on, because he was out, but he made so many big plays at the beginning of this season. I think there's still a contract thing going on. Hopefully we can keep him around, I guess is my point.
I got to know what happened on Thanksgiving overtime coin toss with Jerome Bettis. What's the real story, Barry? Come on.
So that question is coming from a huge Steeler fan, right?
Yeah.
I think the refs got it right, man. Okay. I think the refs got it.
Didn't expect anything different.
Barry, last for me, man. One, it's an honor and pleasure to talk to you. Being a guy, I had the opportunity to play with Charlie Batch, and Charlie always talked about his days in Detroit. Obviously, he transferred over to Pittsburgh, man. But he always talked about the offensive line and playing with you, and how it all starts with the offensive room and being able to communicate and being on the same page. Where, obviously you have a great personality. You seem like a sweetheart of a man, but nobody ever got to see the mean side of Barry Sanders. Nobody ever got to see the guy who ever wanted to punch somebody in the face for maybe being out of line. Well, what is something that you think doesn't get talked about enough when it comes about the story or legacy of Barry Sanders? I remember Deion Sanders talking to Jerry Rice. He goes, Jerry was one of those guys that he worked so hard that he didn't live in the moment. It was hard to tell if he loved football or not. He took it as a job. What's something that gets missed from your legacy that people don't know about Barry Sanders?
Oh, wow. I mean, I feel like most of it's been covered, and I kind of remember playing, with Charlie. That was my last year when Charlie, I think, was a rookie. And he came in and did I think he but yeah, I mean, it's great to see the career he had, but that's a tough question. I'm not even sure what I would say. I think most of it has been covered. As far as me, I think what you see is pretty much what you get. I don't think I've ever, at least as a professional, there was no time where I almost went to blows with anyone. I think I pretty much got along with everyone. I don't know if everyone else would say that about me, but yeah. So I think most of it's been covered, and there's really aren't many surprises as far as that.
Last one, real quick for me. You said you were thinking about coming back for your senior year at Oklahoma State before you went pro. Would you have repeated as the Heisman back to back?
I would have had a good chance because I had a really solid offensive line, and and I thought we still had enough good pieces in place. I certainly would have been set up to have a really good year. The guy who there's a guy named Gerald Hudson who followed me. He led the nation in rushing. So yeah, I think I would have had a good chance. I can't say for sure. Mr. Archie Griffin is the one who was the only one to be able to repeat for the Heisman winner, and but I would have been fine, I think, either way, but I'm glad that my dad pushed me out of college into the real world of the NFL.
Money.
I got one more before we get you out of here. I got to ask you about this. This is always just a fun thing I like to ask. Your career stats, passing, 1 for 4, 1 interception. What's going on there? When you get the ball and it's a pass play, it's a trick play, what are you thinking? Are you just like, I'm throwing this no matter what?
Yeah, you would think that my QBR would be a little stronger than that, right? Because you would think that I would catch everyone off guard, but I don't know, man. Maybe I just didn't work on my arm enough, or I always used to blame Herman and some of the receivers, for maybe not giving it their all the same way they did for the quarterbacks, when I was throwing the ball. Or maybe it was tough to see me because I wasn't very tall. I'm not really sure what was going on with that.
Right. So Barry, you're here with Rocket Mortgage. Who do you like to advance the Super Bowl? We got the 2 conference championship games this weekend. Who do you like to advance the Super Bowl?
Oh, like I said, I mean, such great matchups for a championship game. And so I don't know. I mean, I think maybe you got either Chiefs, Bucks, that or Chiefs Bucks or Chiefs Rodgers Brady, Rodgers Brady or Rodgers Mahomes, so I get I'm sorry, you can't have Rodgers Brady obviously, but you can have either Brady Mahomes, right?
Yeah.
Which is more likely.
Yeah.
Or I think, Rodgers against Mahomes, so that I'm thinking that's probably, and obviously that would bode well for those playing squares. Those guys can light the scoreboard up,
yeah.
But hopefully Mahomes is good and healthy. I don't know that he's going to play this weekend, but maybe he'll be ready for Super Bowl. So if I had to put money on it, I'm not a betting man, but I have to put money on it, I would probably say Chiefs Packers.
Okay. Well, either way, it should be an exciting big game. And again, Barry's with Rocket Mortgage. Everybody who's listening to this is probably playing Super Bowl squares. Go to rocketmortgagesquares.com. It is free to enter. Doesn't cost a dime to play, and you have a chance to win on every score change: touchdown, extra point, two-point conversion, field goal, safety, and one $50,000 winner is picked randomly for that appropriate square. I mean, no brainer. Got to sign up for this. A $500,000 winner is picked at the end of the first half, and again at the end of the game. Last year, 15 lucky winners accumulated a total of $1.75 million. Who doesn't love free money? Who doesn't love Super Bowl squares? So sign up through February 4th, rocketmortgagesquares.com. Barry Sanders, Hall of Famer. Thank you so much for joining the Going Deep podcast. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Barry.
Hey, gentlemen. Thanks for having me, man. Great seeing you guys.
Barry.
Appreciate it.
Go deep.